When you leave, they'll feel it, not just in the moment, but in every waking second that follows. The emptiness left behind by your absence will ripple through their lives, carving deep, jagged wounds, wounds that time will never heal. You will become a shadow in their minds, a phantom that haunts their every thought. And every time they try to move on, the memory of you will drag them back, reminding them of the void you've left. You see, absence isn't just about not being there anymore. It's not the simple act of physically disappearing. It's the unraveling of everything they once knew. Your absence is a reminder that nothing is permanent. You were once there, and now you're gone. The feeling that something was stolen, something irreplaceable, your laughter, your touch, the presence of your very being. And once that's gone, they're left to face the unrelenting reality of your absence. But here's the thing, no matter how many times they search for the pieces of you scattered in the echoes of their memories, they'll never find them. It's like trying to piece together a broken mirror. No matter how hard you try, there will always be shards that cut deep. Those wounds will bleed. They'll bleed for as long as they refuse to acknowledge what has happened. But acknowledging the loss is impossible. Because how can you acknowledge something that can't be replaced? This is where the darkness sits. It's not in the anger. It's not in the sorrow. It's in the space you leave behind. The silence. The loneliness that lingers like smoke, suffocating them without them even knowing it. You are the storm that hits when they least expect it. The one that tears apart their life, leaving them with nothing but shattered pieces. And they'll never know peace again. They'll search for solace in distractions, in relationships, in material things, but none of it will ever compare. Every smile they fake, every laugh they force, is a lie they tell themselves to cope with the truth. You're gone. You are the lost key they can never find. They will seek you in the faces of others, in the familiar touch of someone else's hand, but it will never be enough. No one will ever fill the void you left. They'll try to replace you, and in their futile efforts, they'll realize that no one, not a single soul, can replicate what you brought into their world. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. No matter how much they twist, turn, or shove, it will never fit. You were unique. You were irreplaceable. And when you walked away, you didn't just leave a gap in their life. You shattered their understanding of what it meant to be whole. And as time passes, they'll move forward, slowly, hesitantly, like a wounded animal learning to walk again. But that's the illusion, isn't it? The illusion that time heals everything. Time doesn't heal. It doesn't make the pain go away. It doesn't make the memory fade. All it does is bury it deeper, and the further it's buried, the harder it becomes to confront. Time is not a healer, it's a deceiver. It tells you that with each passing day, the pain will dull. But in truth, it will only grow sharper until it cuts so deep that it becomes a part of them. A part that no one will ever see, but a part that will shape everything they do, everything they think, and everything they become. They'll be haunted by your absence, by the ghost of who you were, and by the truth that you're no longer part of their life. They'll wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, feeling the absence of your warmth. They'll sit in silence, and the stillness will become unbearable. They'll look around, trying to fill the void with distractions, but nothing will ever feel right. It will always feel like something is missing, and they'll wonder over and over again if they could have done something differently. Could they have held on a little longer? Could they have said more? Could they have loved harder? But the truth is, there's nothing they could have done. Your absence is inevitable, and once you're gone, there's no going back. No rewinding the clock, no undoing the damage. You will always be the wound they can never heal from, and they'll carry that with them until the end of their days. And here lies the brutal truth. They will never truly move on. They'll adapt. They'll learn to live with the pain, but they'll never forget you. They will pretend. They will smile. They will make it seem like everything is fine. But deep down, there will always be that hole, that void, that one thing they can never replace. They will always wish for the one thing that slipped through their fingers. And that's where the real torment lies, in the knowing that you were the one thing that could never be replaced. They will go through the motions of life, but a part of them will always be lost in the past, stuck in the time before you left. They will carry you with them, even though you're not there. They'll see traces of you in every corner of their existence, and they'll hate themselves for it. They'll hate the fact that they can't let go, but they won't be able to. And that is where your power lies, in the pain you've left behind. You will become their addiction, the thing they can never quit. Every thought, every breath, every second of their life will be consumed by you. And in that consumption, they will lose themselves. They'll become obsessed with the thought of you, and in doing so, they'll destroy the very essence of who they are. The more they try to forget, the more they remember. And the more they remember, the more they realize that they can never escape you. There's a sick beauty in knowing that your absence doesn't just fade into the background. It festers. It grows like a wound left open, exposed to the air, refusing to close. They'll look for distractions, and at first, it might seem like they're moving on. The world will convince them to let go, telling them that life must go on. But there's a part of them that will always be frozen, trapped in the moment you walked away. And no matter how far they go, no matter how many faces they encounter, they will find themselves searching for something you left behind, something that doesn't exist anymore. They'll search for you in the reflection of others, but the truth is, there's no one like you. They'll dive into relationships, thinking that the love they felt for you can be replicated in another's eyes. But it's all a lie. What they're really searching for is the feeling of connection, the spark they once shared with you, the one thing that made their heart beat faster. But no one else will ignite that fire. It's gone. You took it with you when you left, and no matter how many new faces come into their life, no one will ever come close to the intensity of what you brought into their world. The deeper they try to bury it, the louder the emptiness grows. The echoes of your presence will chase them into every room, every corner, every thought. They'll wake up with your memory still fresh in their mind. And no matter how hard they try to push it away, it will persist like a poison running through their veins. It will consume them from the inside out, and they won't even realize it's happening. Every interaction will feel like a half-hearted imitation. Every conversation an empty shell of what they once had with you. In the stillness of the night, they'll feel the weight of your absence, like a suffocating pressure on their chest. The silence will scream at them, reminding them of the chaos that once was. They'll try to sleep, to escape, but your absence will linger like a shadow, a constant reminder that they were once whole, and now they are not. Their dreams will be distorted, fractured, like a jigsaw puzzle with pieces that no longer fit. And then, just when they think they've moved past it, when they think they've outrun the memory, it will resurface, like a tidal wave, crashing over them when they least expect it. One word, one moment, one fleeting second. It's all it will take to bring everything rushing back, and they'll feel it all over again. The grief, the loss, the frustration, that gnawing feeling that they can never escape. The wound they thought had healed will rip open, and they'll be forced to confront the gaping hole in their soul once more. But here's the darkest part of it all. The moment they accept your absence, they realize they become addicted to the pain. They've learned to crave the torment. It's a vicious cycle, one that pulls them deeper into despair. They'll tell themselves they're fine, that they've let go. But in reality, they've just learned to live with the agony. It becomes their constant companion, their only source of familiarity in a world that has turned cold and unfamiliar without you. And in that familiar agony, they'll find themselves clinging to the past, reliving every moment, every word, every touch. They'll play it over and over in their mind, trapped in a loop that they can never escape. In this self-inflicted torture, they'll come to realize that they've lost more than just you. They've lost a part of themselves. They've lost their sense of who they are without you. Their identity was intertwined with yours. And now that you're gone, they're left with fragments of a life they can no longer recognize. They'll try to fill that void with new experiences, new people, but it's futile. The hole will always remain. They'll try to fill it with distractions, work, hobbies, superficial relationships, but nothing will ever be enough. No matter how many walls they build around their heart, they'll never escape the reality of what's missing. They'll fool themselves into thinking that time will heal the wounds. But they're wrong. Time doesn't heal. It only makes the scars more permanent. The past doesn't fade. It becomes engraved in their psyche, a mark they'll carry forever. The memory of you will become a part of their DNA. They'll begin to question who they are, who they were before you came into their life, and who they'll be once they're able to push the memory of you aside. But the truth is, they'll never really know. They'll never truly move forward because you've left a mark that's impossible to erase. They'll stand at the crossroads of their future, but no matter which direction they choose, they'll always carry the weight of your absence with them. It will shape their choices, their relationships, their very being. They'll question everything, wonder about every decision they made, and second-guess every step they take. They'll wonder, as they look around at the world you used to share with them, whether it was all real, whether the connection they once had with you was ever as pure as they thought. In the depths of their mind, they'll search for closure. They'll search for answers to questions that will never have answers. They'll look for peace in places that can never give it to them. They'll try to forgive themselves for not doing more, for not holding on tighter, for letting you slip away. But that's the thing about absence. It doesn't ask for forgiveness. It doesn't give you the luxury of closure. It just leaves you with a hole that can never be filled, a wound that will never fully heal. And as time continues to pass, they'll grow older, wiser, but the loss will never fade. They'll look back on their life and realize that a part of them was always missing. They'll continue to move through life with the absence of you weighing on them. And no matter what they accomplish, no matter who they become, there will always be that lingering question in the back of their mind. What if? They'll ask themselves, what if I had fought harder to keep you in my life? But the truth is, they never had a chance. Your absence was inevitable, and now it's etched into the very core of their being, a part of them that can never be undone. The real tragedy lies in what happens when they realize they're not the same person they once were. No matter how hard they try to patch up the cracks, they'll never be able to return to who they were before you. You left them incomplete, but not in the way they expected. It's like trying to rebuild a shattered glass vase with tape. No matter how perfectly it's pieced together, it will never be whole again. They'll find themselves staring at the reflection of someone they no longer recognize, someone who is forever scarred by your absence. And yet, they'll continue to convince themselves that time can heal all wounds, that with enough effort, they can repair what's been broken. But time does nothing but magnify the absence. It rubs salt into the wound and forces them to live with the reminder that they can never go back. As the years slip by, they'll start to realize something else. This absence, this emptiness, is contagious. It spreads like a virus, infecting the people they meet, the relationships they try to build. The more they try to push through the pain, the more it clings to them. They'll meet someone new, someone they think could replace the void you left, but it will always feel like an imitation. There will be a moment when they find themselves comparing this new person to you, not because they want to, but because something deep inside them will force them to. The mark you left is permanent. No one else can replicate it. No one else can fill that space you left behind. And so they will continue their search for something that doesn't exist, and in doing so, they will only ensure that they never find peace. This cycle, this relentless search, becomes their new reality. They'll cling to fleeting moments, fleeting people, hoping that somehow they can recreate what was lost. But it's all smoke and mirrors. Their mind will play tricks on them, leading them to believe that moving on means filling the void with something, anything. But what they fail to understand is that your absence wasn't meant to be filled. It was meant to be felt. They were supposed to live with it, to carry the weight of it forever. There is no escape, no closure, only an eternal struggle against a force that is as inevitable as death itself. They'll surround themselves with noise, friends, distractions, anything that drowns out the silence of your absence. But deep down, they know. They know that no matter how many people they surround themselves with, it will never feel the same. There will always be an empty seat at the table, an unspoken space that only you could ever occupy. They'll pretend to laugh, to smile, to move forward, but inside, they'll always be fighting a battle that no one else can see. The world will continue to spin around them, but they'll remain anchored in the past, locked in a prison of their own making. The worst part? They'll never know when the pain will subside. It's not like a wound that heals with time. There's no bandage for this. There's no pill they can take to numb the hurt. It becomes a part of them, like an uninvited guest that refuses to leave. They'll try to build new memories, but they'll always be haunted by the ghost of what once was. The beautiful moments they shared with you, will remain frozen in time, taunting them with the knowledge that those days are gone and they can never go back. And in those moments when they try to move on, they'll feel it, the sting of betrayal, not from you, but from themselves. They'll wonder if they could have done something differently, if they could have made a different choice. But deep down, they'll know that the truth is much darker, that even if they had fought harder, even if they had done everything right, your absence was inevitable. You were always meant to be a force that would carve a wound so deep, so permanent, that they would never escape it. It's like a fire that burns through everything in its path. Nothing is left untouched. Nothing is left the same. And then, when they least expect it, they'll be faced with the ultimate realization. They'll never escape the past. They'll never outrun the memory of you. You'll live on in their thoughts, in their every action, in every moment of their life. You've become a part of them, and just like that, you will always be with them. Not in the way they wanted, but in a way that will never let them go. They'll spend their days chasing the idea of moving forward, but in the end, they will understand something far darker. They were never meant to move on. You've woven yourself so deeply into their existence that there is no separation. They carry you in the deepest, darkest parts of their soul, where no one can see. And as the years pass, they will realize that it's not just your absence that defines them. It's the scar you left behind, the scar that will never fade, the scar that will be the reminder, the bitter truth, that they will never be whole again. And that, my friend, is the true price of leaving.